Honorable members of the committee, welcome to the first meeting of the Standing Committee on Veterans Affairs. I see a quorum. Pursuant to Standing Order 1063A, as the clerk of the committee, I will preside over the election of the chair and the vice chairs. I must inform members that the clerk of the committee can only receive motions for the election of the chair. The clerk cannot receive cannot receive other types of motions, cannot entertain points of order, nor participate in debate. Nous pouvons donc procéder à l'élection de la présidence.
We can now proceed to the election of the chair. Pursuant to Standing Order 1062, the chair must be a member of the government party.
Receive motions for the chair. Mr. Richards.
I would move Marie-France Lalonde.
It has been moved by Blake Richards that Marie-France Lalonde be elected as chair of the committee. Are there any further motions? Seeing none. It has been moved by Mr. Richards that Marie-France Lalonde be elected chair of the committee. Is it the pleasure of the committee to adopt this motion? I declare the motion carried and Madame Lalonde duly elected chair of the committee.
Je vais commencer par juste dire
I'd like to start by saying a big thank you to Mr. Richards.
merci à vous tous.
Thanks to everyone for entrusting me with this role today. It's always an honour and a privilege. So a big thank you. I think that we can now move on to the next step, which is vice chairs of our committee.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Conformément à la...
Thank you, Madam Chair. Pursuant to Standing Order 106, the first Vice Chair must be a member of the official opposition. I'm now prepared to receive motions for the first Vice Chair.
Mr. Casey.
I'd like to nominate the honourable member from Airdrie Cochrane, Blake Richards, for the position of Vice Chair of the Veterans Affairs Committee.
It has been moved by Mr. Casey that Mr. Richards be elected as the first vice chair of the committee. Are there any further motions? Seeing none, it has been moved by Mr. Casey that Mr. Richards be elected first vice chair of the committee. Is it the pleasure of the committee to adopt this motion? Yes. I declare the motion carried and Mr. Richards duly elected first vice chair of the committee.
Congratulations.
And pursuant to Standing Order 1062, the second vice chair must be a member of an opposition party other than the official oppositions. Je suis maintenant prêt à recevoir des...
I'm now prepared to receive motions for the second Vice Chair position.
Monsieur le greffier,
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I imagine it'll be a big surprise, but I nominate MP from Laurentides-Lebel, the Honourable Marie-Hélène Goudreau, as second Vice Chair of the committee.
Proposé par Mr. Casey.
It's been moved by Mr. Casey that Ms. Goudreau be elected as second Vice Chair of the committee.
Plaît-il au comité d'adopter la motion?
Is it the pleasure of the committee to adopt the motion? Motion carried. Ms. Goudreau is duly elected second Vice Chair of the committee.
On a fini.
On a fini. Ben bonjour. Oh.
Yes, we've finished. Yes, hello once again. Listen, first off, Congratulations to our two vice chairs, but also to all of you. Thanks for being here for today's committee meeting, for this committee, which is so important in the lives of Canadians, those who've served our country and who bring with them stories. And we're asked to help them with the situations that they live and endure.
Of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Veterans Affairs. Écoutez, avant de commencer, j'aimerais demander...
Listen, before we start, I'd like to call on all in-person participants to read the guidelines that are on the updated cards, which are on the tables. As you're aware, these measures are in place to prevent acoustic incidents as well as larson effects, feedback incidents to protect the health and safety of all participants, including our interpreters, who we would like to thank in passing. And you'll also notice that a QR code is on the card, which links to a short awareness video.
Of you to be very attentive to ensure the well-being of our interpreters. So, merci à vous. La réunion d'aujourd'hui.
Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format.
Participant of the following points. Veuillez attendre que je vous...
Before speaking, please wait until I recognize you by your name.
Je demanderai aussi aux membres de lever...
Members, please raise your hand if you wish to speak. And I'll try and have very broad vision.
Will help me if you have comments that you would like to bring. Raise your hand. Le greffier du comité, moi-même, se fera...
The clerk and myself will maintain a speaking list.
That all comments should be addressed through the chair. Donc, maintenant, écoutez, j'espère que...
Now, I hope that you've all had the opportunity
to see our routine motion, la motion de régie interne. With the agreement of the committee, we can proceed to the consideration of routine motion. Je sais que le greffier du comité...
I know that the committee clerk has circulated a list of draft routine motions that were prepared, and we understand that they were prepared by the whips of all the recognised parties.
Le greffier.
Mr. Clerk, I'll call on you. And as a reminder first, a motion must be moved by a committee member. It is easier to consider the routine motions one by one.
At the time, if that's okay. If I have the agreement. And the first one, I think, is very important. So I'll invite a member to read the motion. Madame Hurtel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First motion is analyst services, that the committee retain as needed and at the discretion of the chair the services of one or more analysts from the Library of Parliament to assist it in its work.
Est-ce que tout le monde...
Is everyone in agreement?
Parfait. Bien.
Terrific. Let's warmly welcome our analyst. I think that you've all had the pleasure and opportunity of working with him.
Working with our analysts, so welcome back officially to our committee. On peut dire gros merci.
A round of applause.
Donc, merci beaucoup.
Thank you once again.
I would like to invite for another motion, Madame Auguste.
Oui, que le sous-comité du programme.
Yes, the subcommittee on agenda and procedure be established and be composed of 5 members, the chair, 1 member from each recognised party, and that the subcommittee work in a spirit of collaboration.
Est-ce que tout le monde est d'accord?
Is everyone in agreement?
In agreement? Parfait.
Terrific.
Oh, oui.
We
Sorry,
read
Mr.
composed
Wallenthal.
of 5 members, is what was interpreted. Is it 4 members or 5? Yes. Okay, it was just interpretation, possibly. I don't know.
De 4 membres.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Oui. Perfect. Merci. Mr. Shep, the next one.
Chair be authorized to hold meetings to receive evidence and to have that evidence published when a quorum is not present, provided that at least 4 members are present, including 2 members of the opposition parties and 2 members of the government party.
Are we all in agreement? Parfait. Merci. Next one. Mrs. Ertl.
It was travel, yeah. Travel, that when traveling out, hold on, sorry, okay. That when traveling outside the parliamentary precinct, A, the meeting begins after 15 minutes, regardless of whether quorum is present. B, no substantive motion may be moved during such meetings.
Est-ce qu'on est tous d'accord?
Are we all in agreement?
La prochaine motion, s'il vous plaît, Madame Auguste.
The next motion.
Alloué pour les déclarations d'ouverture.
Time allocated for opening remarks and questions. That witnesses have 5 minutes for their opening remarks. That to the extent possible, that witnesses provide the committee with their opening remarks 72 hours in advance, and that the discretion of the chair during the questioning of witnesses, that 6 minutes be allocated for the first person from each party. First round, Conservatives, then Liberals, then Bloc Québécois. Second round, following order, is as follows: Conservative Party 5 minutes, Liberal Party 5 minutes, Bloc Québécois 2 minutes and a half, Conservative Party 5 minutes, Liberal Party 5 minutes.
Are we all in agreement? Parfait. Merci. Prochaine motion.
Next motion.
Mr. Shin.
Document distribution, that only the clerk of the committee be authorized to distribute documents to members of the committee and only when the documents are in both official languages, and that all documents submitted to the committee in both official languages that do not come from a federal department member's offices or that have not been translated by the Translation Bureau be sent for linguistic review by the Translation Bureau before being distributed to members, and that the witnesses be advised accordingly.
Are we all in agreement? Perfect. Our next motion, Mrs. Ertl.
Meals.
Oh, you guys?
Oh.
Oh.
Okay. That the clerk of the committee, at the discretion of the chair, be authorized to make the necessary arrangements to provide working meals for the committee and its subcommittees.
Are we all in agreement? Okay. Well, it does say at the discretion of the chair, so be ready. You may have a surprise this session. Actually, je parle français. J'aime bien la cuisine.
I love French food, and I also speak French, evidently.
Madame Auguste.
Frais de déplacement et de
Travel, accommodation, living expenses of witnesses, that if requested, reasonable travel, accommodation and living expenses be reimbursed to witnesses not exceeding 2 representatives per organisation, and that in exceptional circumstances, payment for more representatives be made at the discretion of the chair. And the interpreter would point out that we do not have the updated copy of the routine motions. Are we all in agreement?
Parfait. Merci. The next motion, Mr. Shi.
Access to in-camera meetings, that unless otherwise ordered, each committee member be allowed to be accompanied by 1 staff member at in-camera meetings, and that 1 additional person from each House officer's office be allowed to be present. That during in-camera meetings, committee members may be informed by the committee chair of the MPs who have been designated as substitutes for permanent members in order to know which MPs are authorized to speak and vote during these committee meetings. That only those who have been recognized and identified as such be authorized to speak in keeping with the usual agreed rules.
Rappel au règlement, Madame la...
On a point of order, Madam Chairperson, thank you very much. Unfortunately, it's being read out quite quickly, and unfortunately the interpreters have not received the updated copy of the draft routine motion. So perhaps you could either send them through to the interpreters or speak a tad more slowly so that our esteemed interpreters can interpret faithfully. Well, the documents were indeed shared, but if you could perhaps just slow down a tad so that the interpreters can interpret on the hop. Thank you very much.
Merci. Pardonnez-moi pour...
I do apologize. I was speaking very quickly. So,
Donc, que lors des réunions à huis clos, les membres du comité soient informés qu'une personne a été désignée comme remplaçant afin qu'on sache quels députés sont autorisés à prendre la parole.
I think they...
Madame Gaudreau, je vous ai envoyé.
Ms. Goudreau, I just sent you a copy of the updated document. No. The issue...
Moi, j'ai pas d'oreillette, là. I cannot hear them.
Dernière, Madame la Présidente.
They have the version from last year, Madam Chairperson, so unfortunately it doesn't match up. We're terribly sorry to the interpreters that don't have the updated version of the document in order to facilitate their work. But can we send that through to them, please? Thank you very much. We'll send that through, the updated version, that is, and we apologise profusely. Thank you very much.
Donc, moi, je sais, moi, je parle. Parfait. OK. Merci beaucoup.
Access to in-camera meetings, that, unless otherwise ordered, each committee member be allowed to be accompanied by one staff member at in-camera meetings, and that one additional person from each House officer's office be allowed to be present. That during in-camera meetings, committee members may be informed by the committee chair that of the MPs who have been designated as substitutes for permanent members in order to know which MPs are authorized to speak and vote during these committee meetings, that only those who have been recognized and identified as such be authorized to speak in keeping with the usual agreed rules of order and decorum.
Parfait. Thank you very much. Est-ce que tout le monde est en accord avec...
Is everyone in agreement with the motion? Perfect.
Have the next one, please, Mrs. Ertel.
Transcripts of in-camera meetings. That one copy of the transcript of each in-camera meeting be securely retained by the committee clerk for consultation by members of the committee or by their staff, and that the analysts assigned to the committee have access to the in-camera transcripts.
Est-ce que tout le monde est en accord?
Is everyone in agreement? Perfect. Ms. Auguste, notice of motion that a 48-hour notice interpreted as 2 nights be required for any substantive motion to be moved in committee unless the substantive motion relates directly to business then under consideration, provided that A, the notice be filed with the clerk of the committee no later than 4 p.m. from Monday to Thursday and no later than 2:30 p.m. on Fridays. B, the motion be distributed to members and the officers of the whips of each recognised party in both official languages by the clerk on the same day the said notice was transmitted if it was received no later than the deadline hour. C, notice is received after the deadline hour or on non-business days be deemed to have been received during the next business day. Perfect. Thank you. Is everyone in agreement with that motion?
Next one, we'll invite Mr. Sheen.
Orders of reference from the House respecting bills. That in relation to orders of reference from the House respecting bills, A, the clerk of the committee shall, upon the committee receiving such an order of reference, write to each member who is not a member of a caucus represented on the committee to invite those members to file with the clerk of the committee in both official languages any amendments to the bill, which is the subject of the said order, which they would suggest that the committee consider. B, suggested amendments filed pursuant to paragraph A at least 48 hours prior to the start of clause-by-clause consideration of the bill to which the amendments relate shall be deemed to be proposed during the said consideration, provided that the committee may, by motion, vary this deadline in respect of a given bill, and C, au cours de l'étude.
So during the clause-by-clause consideration of a bill, the chair shall allow a member who filed suggested amendments pursuant to paragraph A an opportunity to make brief representations in support of them.
Merci beaucoup.
Bravo. Well done.
But are we all in agreement with this motion? Parfait. La prochaine, Mrs. Ertel.
Technical tests for witnesses. That the clerk inform each witness who is to appear before the committee that the House Administration support team must conduct technical tests to check the connectivity and the equipment used to ensure the best possible sound quality, and that the chair advise the committee at the start of each meeting of any witness who did not perform the required technical tests.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Are we all in agreement? Parfait. Our next one, Madame Auguste.
Accès au cartable numérique pour WIP que le greffier du comité.
WIP's access to digital binders, that the clerk of the committee be authorised to grant access to the committee's digital binder to the officers of the WIPs of each recognised party.
Parfait. Mr. Shin.
Maintenance of order and decorum, that during meetings, the chair, if necessary, uses his prerogative or her prerogative to suspend the meeting to maintain the order and decorum necessary to ensure the application of the House of Commons policies on workplace health and safety.
Are we all in agreement for the last motion of this routine proceeding? Parfait. Excellent. Merci beaucoup.
Terrific. Excellent.
Little things, but they're important. They will set our agenda and us going forward. Does the committee wish to discuss any further committee business? Mr. Richards?
Sure. I don't think, okay, it is on. Okay. Sorry, I'm still getting used to the new microphones. I was trying to figure out if I was on or not. Having had a chance to discuss these couple of motions with most of the members of the committee, there was a couple of members who mentioned to me I had two motions. One was related to the Persian Gulf War study, and the other one was related to the reforming transition from military civilian life study from last Parliament. And I was under the impression that neither of them had received a government response. Some members seem to believe that perhaps the transition to civilian life had received a government response. Can our analyst or our clerk confirm for us on that?
Très bon point. On va vérifier.
Yeah. Excellent point. We'll double check.
The other one, though, because we're
Yes.
certain that that's
I think
the
we
case.
agree on the Gulf. Yeah.
Okay, so the motion would be as follows. That given that committee members, staff, the clerk, analysts, and witnesses worked hard to produce the report entitled "The Persian Gulf War Was a War" during the first session of the 44th Parliament, and given that the government did not table a response because of the prorogation of Parliament, that the committee deem that it has undertaken and completed a study on the Persian Gulf War was a war pursuant to Standing Order 108, and that it adopt that report as a report from this committee pursuant to Standing Order 109. The committee requests the government to table a comprehensive response to the report. Supplementary or dissenting reports that accompanied the report in the previous session of Parliament be tabled with the main report, and that the chair present the report to the House.
Okay. Mr. Casey.
I'd like to propose an amendment to the motion. The motion suggests that the reason for it not being tabled was because the government prorogued Parliament. I'm not convinced that that is the case, given the lengthy filibuster that tied up the House in the last few months. And as opposed to trying to point fingers as to whose fault it is that it wasn't tabled, I would simply ask that the reference to prorogation be deleted, and then we'd be happy to support the motion.
Any more debate on this?
We'll just consider that a friendly amendment. I believe that was the reason, but I'm not fussed over it. Let's consider it a friendly amendment, and I'm fine with it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richard. And okay, on va finir. So I just want to make sure, can we share? I think we do have to share in both official language to each member, or it's okay? That's what I'm asking.
C'est une bonne pratique.
Pour une meilleure pratique, une bonne.
So, good practice is to share it.
This motion, and don't forget that we have a friendly amendment. Is everybody in agreement? As Mr. Richard said, yes, but I need the consensus of all members to do the friendly amendment. Excellent. So we will be sharing the original, just considering that il va avoir l'amendement proposé qui a été retenu.
So there was the amendment, which passed as well.
Donc, cette motion est...
So the motion carries.
Answer, so indeed it was not. So Mr. Richards?
Okay, so then I would move the following. It was a very similar motion. And given that committee members, staff, the clerk, analysts, and witnesses worked hard to produce the report entitled Reforming Transition from Military to Civilian Life during the first session of the 44th Parliament, and given that the government did not table a response, the committee deemed that it has undertaken and completed a study on reforming transition from military to civilian life pursuant to Standing Order 108, and that it adopt that report as a report from this committee pursuant to Standing Order 109. The committee requests the government to table a comprehensive response to the report. Supplementary or dissenting reports that accompanied the report in the previous session of Parliament be tabled with the main report, and the chair present the report to the House. So same form as the other one. I did remove the portion that was not acceptable to the government members.
Any discussion? Perfect. Est-ce qu'on peut tous dire que c'est adopté?
Can we agree that it's carried? Thank you.
Mr. Richards? I'm not sure about who, but I would like to know if it's the pleasure of the committee that we can adjourn this meeting. Parfait. There you go. Merci.